Hello, I'm Cocoa Sugar Cosplay, and I'm back with another video sponsored by Fabric Mart Fabrics. I don't know about any of you, but if there's one thing that I took away from this last year and a half of quarantine and craziness, it's that I never want to wear clothes that are uncomfortable ever again. I got very used to my sweatpants and my comfy clothes as I worked from home pretty much most of last year. And I really don't want to give that up when it comes to cosplay either. For today's look, I was channeling the character Mermista from the show She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. It was definitely one of my quarantine shows last year that I was able to binge through, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. One of the things I love about Mermista's look is that it's really just simple athleisure wear. You could wear it to the gym, or if you're like me, you can wear it in the house while you think about going to the gym maybe sometime. Well, that's enough for me, so let's get started. Alright, so like all of my projects, I will be first starting off by making a pattern. And to do this, I'm going to get super high tech and use an existing pair of leggings and some newspaper. So you'll want to measure out your leggings, just generally how much paper you'll need to make the pattern for the leg. So to create the actual pattern itself, you'll want to trace your leggings by placing them underneath the pattern paper you created and tracing out the general shape with a marker or Sharpie. It doesn't have to be super perfect, but you want to make sure that you get the overall length down and the general shape and width. Mermista's pants are color blocked with a light and dark teal, so I'm drawing that line here on the pattern. Eventually I'll cut it out and I'll use it to create the pattern for each color blocked section as well. Next, we have to create the pattern for the back of the pants. I do this by stacking two pieces of paper and cutting them out both at the same time. The only difference between the front and the back in this case is that the back has a bit more room in the gusset area. Once you're done, you can cut out your pattern pieces, taking extra care to make sure you separate the front and back sides, and also to cut out the color block sections. Once your pattern for the pants is complete, you can move on by repeating the same steps of tracing and cutting for the crop top. I also add in color blocking lines here since they exist on the top too. When all that is ready and good to go, you can move on to cutting out the fabric. For this project, I'll be working with a shiny Lycra activewear knit. It has 4-way stretch, which is perfect for this type of project as it'll allow me plenty of comfort and movement. When you're ready, you can carefully cut all your pieces out from your fabric. I'm opting to use scissors here, but you can easily use a rotary cutter, or some fabrics like this can even be cut with tools such as a Cricut machine or Silhouette. Do whatever suits you best. Once you're done cutting, before moving on to assembly, you have to complete an important next step, and that is dyeing. Or I should say, instead of dyeing, tinting. Mermista's colors are a bit more on the aqua side versus blue, so I needed to tint all of my pieces with a slight yellow cast. To do this, I used Ritz yellow dye for synthetic fabrics. That's the Dymore brand versus the regular brand. If you're doing any dyeing at home, look up what your fabric is made from. If you're using stretch like me, you can stick with the synthetic line. Whenever I dye fabrics, I like to start off by doing a couple of sample runs. This lets me get a feel for how long I need the pieces to remain in the dye bath before taking on the color that I look for. Here you can see an example of my tests with the originals on the right and the new and improved versions on the left. Once everything is ready to go, you can move on to your real fabric. I know that dyeing can seem super intimidating, but I promise practice really does make perfect. As a pro tip, Always make sure to dye extra bits of fabric, like your leftovers from your cuttings, so that you have some just in case you need a little bit more here or there, or in case you mess up on a piece. I do it time to time and it really helps. Once your pieces are dry and ready to go, you can start the assembly process. First, pin all of your color-blocked sections together. Then, run them through on your sewing machine. In this case, I'm using my serger, but you can easily use a stretch stitch on a regular machine if you don't have a serger. Once the color blocking is done, I then stitch together the 2 side seams and the 2 shoulder seams so that the front and back of the top were complete. I then go through and repeat the same steps for the pants, starting with the color blocking and then moving on to sewing the garment in its entirety. I did this by sewing together each color blocked section into a complete front and back, then sewing the fronts and backs to each other, and then adding a waistband at the end. Once all your pieces are sewn, your garment is ready to wear. Alright guys, well that's it for today's project. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I made this athleisure set and that inspired you or maybe taught you something. If it did, I'd love it if you could tag me in what you create. I'd be more than happy to take a look and see what you guys make. It always makes me so happy. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!